Hey, what's up? My name is Jared, and today I'm bringing you a Viego guide that I created, and the topics that we'll discuss will be why play Viego, runes and items, how to lane, playing the mid game, tips for using his abilities, and also how you're going to want to be team fighting as him. So, starting out, who am I? You're probably wondering, 99.99% of the people watching this have no clue who I am, never seen me before, and whenever I see someone new, it's always, well, is this guy good at the game? Does he even know what he's talking about? So I want to be pretty transparent with that stuff, and I'll link like all of my accounts and stuff below, and you can answer that question for yourself. But Season 9, Season 10, I finished Masters, 200 LP peak. At the time of creating this, I'm at Masters 54 LP, and then I have 38 ranked games on Viego. He's my most played on my alt account, and on my main, he's currently my third most played, and then all the like normals games and stuff that I've played. And then noting, with only this many games, this is not like some end-all be-all guide. This is just what I have had success with, and I'm just trying to help that. There's probably like tons of stuff, but nothing here is like what I'm saying is absolute the way you have to play Viego. It's just stuff I've had success with. So going into some pros and cons, why is Viego mid strong? You're probably thinking, if you haven't seen him mid at all, that I thought he was supposed to be a jungler. It's a thing I hear from people from like my stream Discord and things like that, and it's like actually he's, for some reason, he's like insanely good mid. But going into his pros, he actually has like probably the safest laning phase in the game. He is extremely difficult to gank because of his W and his E. His mobility is high, and he has really high sustain, making it so hard to just push him out, even if it's something like a melee versus a ranged mashup that can be really punishing for some champions. But it feels like Viego just never runs out of HP. Like, he just has so much healing, it's crazy. He also has one of the strongest 2v2 champions. Like, his fighting is insane. Any other kind of like hard ganking jungler or anything he can like chain his W with to set up for it is crazy. And then once he gets his 6, obviously, with being able to like ult people and take them over, it's pretty crazy. He can both snowball leads and easily make comebacks. It's also due to his passive and taking the items and stuff, but I will get into that more later. Every game plays out differently. This can also be a bad thing, but for me, it makes the game really fun. I'm one of those people who like play way too many champions than they should, just because I kind of get bored with stuff and I like playing new things. But with Viego, every game feels fresh. Every game has its own unique twist on it, and he's just really insanely fun champion. I've really been enjoying playing him. So some cons: it's hard to stop his opponent from scaling. So he has almost no losing matchups, but there are matchups where he doesn't necessarily win either. And a lot of those are against scaling champions, because a lot of things, kind of like Victor Azir, they have ways to make sure that like Viego can't kill him. You know, they can just ulti him off. Victor has a stun, and so you get farm and you're not losing, but you're not winning at the same time. And going even against scaling champions isn't really going even at times, and that's one of the things. That's the biggest thing I've noticed that Viego struggles with. He telegraphs almost all abilities. Something I've noticed Riot's been doing, like with their balancing these no mana, low cooldown champions, just like Yone, but when they use all of their abilities, you know exactly where they're going. They're standing still, very like telegraphing, and it's easy to like kind of predict what you're doing, but you can also kind of use that in your advantage as well. But I really like this like theme of champion, really fun, kind of frustrating to play against at times, but it's fun to play. Requires basic understanding of every champion in the game. For most people, probably like above platinum, this probably isn't really a problem at all, but for newer players, it could definitely be a problem. You might you might know what the champion does, but you just don't know the QWE, like which ability I take over an Alistar. I know he has his knockup, his trample, and his knockback, but I just don't know if like the QWE are, so you have to know those as well when you take someone over. And again, every game plays out differently. You know, the laning phase is pretty much similar, but like once you start getting into team fights, there's generally a different kind of things you want to be looking for depending on a lot of factors, and I will be going over that as well. His runes, he's a bit of a one-page pony. I should note here that at the time of this, people are starting to press the attack. I think it's probably decent into like ranged, but you stack Conquer so quickly as Viego that I feel like Conquer's really good. And then some people take the Resolve Tree secondary. I just don't agree with that at all. I think Taste of Blood, Ravenous Hunter are the best. Personally, this is the one thing I will kind of say. I mean, I think you can get a lot of value out of the Resolve Tree, but because Ravenous Hunter's the Omni Vamp and you get it on your auto attacks, I personally just think like it's way too much value that you're getting out of this one rune right here not to go Domination secondary. And obviously you'll change up this, but I've ran like this exact same rune page here like basically every game. But I could see into like a lot of squishy range champions where you wouldn't be able to stack your Conquer, how press the attack would be better. But I think overall Conquer is your best rune. Alright, so right here I'm just going to show like how easy it is for him to stack Conquer. So the reason why is because your Q passive on them, it counts as 2 autos whenever you auto them with the stack on it. So you hit your ability, your stun here, and then you auto them, which counts as twice, which brings you up to 6 stacks. And then you hit them with your Q, which brings you up to 8, and then you auto them again, which brings you up to the full Conquer stack. And it's really fast. So right here, the full thing, and Conquer is fully stacked. Like it's actually insane how fast you can proc it. It should, the Q passive thing that needs to be what's nerfed from him. Like it's actually insane. I can't believe that you're allowed to just stack it this fast, and it works like that for press the attack as well. But most times you're going to be leading with your W first, and so at the same exact time it takes you to stack a full Conquer is the exact same that you would do with press the attack, which is like I see how press the attack's like good because you get the initial proc damage as well with press the attack, which feels nice as well. But I think just being able to stack Conquer this fast is just way too good. And with your really low ability or cooldowns, you can keep the Conquer going, and I really like it personally. Alright, so continue on item builds. You'll be going D-Blade or D-Shield first almost every single time, and then going next, your first item, you're going to go Blade of the Rune King or Kraken Slayer. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Kraken Slayer and Viego, but it is one of your options for your first item, and if you end up going Kraken Slayer, then you'll go your Bork second, and then you'll build it into Sterix. Sterix is an insanely good item, and almost every single build you will want to get this third. Like, this Sterix gauge is so important for Viego in team fights to be able to get like his passive and take people over, and it just gives him the extra tankiness he needs, and it also just helps him like with being able to build damage items as well. But you'll see why I like Bork more here. So if you go Bork first, you can go Kraken Slayer, you can go Triforce, you can go Wit's End. I also think you can go Stridebreaker, but you'll be seeing that coming up here in a little. But I think it just gives you so many options. If you go Kraken Slayer, you're just locked in to having to go these 3 items. You go the Bork first, you can really change up how you're building to how the game's going, and I really like that. I think Viego is an extremely flexible champion, and he's extremely consistent, and I think being able to go something like the Bork first into having options to adapt to the game is a really, really good thing to have, and Kraken just does not give you that. Now, if you end up going for Triforce or Kraken, you're just going to go right back into the Sterix Gauge third. Really strong item. One thing that I have been liking is Wit's End. If it's something like a double AP mid laner and jungler, or maybe double AP top mid, the Wit's End, the extra on hit damage and move speed along with the board, it feels really good whenever you get on top of someone, They're really fast, you stay on top of them, and it feels like you just deal a lot of damage. Now, if you end up going to Wit's End like this, you can go Triforce, or I've been trying out Stridebreaker. I have not tried it out extensively, but in all the games I've tried out Stridebreaker, it feels really good. The cooldown on it is only 20 seconds, and it scales with your ability haste, and it feels really strong, but I just don't have the games on it. But I would like to say it is an option. It's a good tankier option. You also could just go third item Sterix and skip the Mythic, which I think is an option as well. And then with boots, if it's a hard lane, like you're going to get poked a lot, or it's like Tristana or a Lucian mid, you can just rush the tabbies or rush the Merc Treads. I think it's really good. You really don't need items at all early. You just need to make sure you can sit in lane and be able to farm. I think that if it's one of those games where it's like, I don't really need Merc Treads, I don't really need the steel caps, and just none of them seem that good. Like, I'm just not at that much of a threat. I think Berserker Greaves is an option. I do think Berserker Greaves pairs very good with Kraken Slayer, and Kraken Slayer is whenever I go Kraken Slayer, I'll generally be going Berserker Greaves. It does feel pretty nice then. I don't have anything listed after for like fourth items, and it's just because so many items work so well on Viego, and there's so many situational things that I could be here for an hour and be talking about ways of certain builds could be good. But things like Death's Dance is really good in the full or into a lot of physical damage teams because of the way his the bleed passive gets negated when he kills somebody, and then how he gets the invulnerability, which like guarantees all the extra healing and things like that. And things like GA is really strong as well. But yeah, you get the point. There's just a lot of different variations. So matchups, Viego has almost 0 losing matchups, and I mean this. Like, I have even like I'm gonna be showing off like matchups and stuff. Even the harder matchups, like I've played these, and it just does not feel like he struggles at all. It's actually crazy. He's safe enough to where even in hard lanes, if you play correctly, you can always go even. Since he's so strong in skirmishes and 2v2s, you can play a safe lane phase and look to play off your team. Like, as long as you're having a nice, safe, consistent, you're scaling, he's so strong in these fights that as long as you are just present and you're showing up, you will be able to swing fights into your team's favor so hard in the early to mid game. But this requires good positioning and really good map awareness. So you have to make sure, you know, you're looking at your mini map, you're playing in your lane correctly to the side of the map, like where your jungler is, so you are the first person rotating. And it's a good thing to get into this habit anyways, but you really need to be doing it too for this. He struggles against most hard scaling champs. I kind of talked about this. It's not even so much the fact that he struggles against them. You will always go even, but you know, is going even against a scaling champion like Victor Azir really going even though, because of how strong they're going to be? Viego's scaling is quite good himself, but he is not a ranged hyper carry like some champions are. So right here, this is not a like end all be all tier list. Like, some of these I haven't even played. I just kind of put these as to how I thought they were, and I want to talk about like the overall theme of them. Like, if you can see things like that he does really good, these are super easy lanes. The Talon, like Yasuo, Yone, Katarina, Diana, Echo, all these like early or like these short ranged melee kind of assassin bruisers in the mid lane. Just Kiana, Pyke, absolutely just destroys it. These are the easiest lanes to play, and I really mean that. It's like, it feels like you're playing the game on easy mode against him when you're playing Viego. He does super well in the against. And then there's some skill matchup things I played, but then once you start going down the list, you'll see even like Ahri. There's really Ahri's like, she has to be trolling for you to kill her, and she really doesn't have any way to kill you unless you're just overly aggressing for no reason to try and kill her. Things like Azir, Ryze, Victor, Anivia, you get the point. All of these champions are scale pretty hard. I don't think Ahri, don't mind Ahri. cancel her out of this. But other than this, all of these champions scaling is insane, and it's really hard to shut these champions down in lane. I always feel like I'm always just at like even CS. It's hard to get CS leads and things like that against them, and yeah, I think that's like where his weakness comes in. But and then obviously champs like Zed. I think Zed's really strong against him because like when you're using your ulti and things like that, you're standing still and you know where you're gonna go. You're just an easy target for the shurikens. And then obviously things that keep him still, and like Camille's just a really strong champion. Jace is good against melees. There's really no surprise here in the hard. But things to note: Kled, do not ever, unless you are 1 HP and you have no other choice, do not take Kled. So I think the reason why this is because when you take Kled over, you technically do not have Scarl. So you are not mounted, so it puts your maximum HP at like 30%, even if you're at full. So you can be full HP, take over Kled, drop down to like 400 HP, and then you're like, oh, what the fuck? And then you will ulti out, and then you're still 400 HP. It is so bad. Like this champion, the matchup isn't even bad for him, but it's just avoid him. And then Malphite, if you're playing an AD mid laner and Malphite gets picked into all AD, just dodge. It is not worth it. Even if you win the game, it's not worth the mental damage caused by having to play against a Malphite as an all AD team. It is just dodge. It's all I have to say. Just some general tips for his laning. You never want to take a straight up fight unless you have a lead. Unless you have a lead part should seem obvious, but I just want to make sure I put that. But you want to be taking shorter trades. You want to be poking them with the max range Qs. Your Q has insane range, and just kind of dancing along that max range that they have. Things like Syndra Q, Ori Q, Zoe E, and to bait them out. And then once you bait that out, that's where you're free to look more aggressive for a trade and look to make something happen. Patience is key with Viego. Don't like see like, oh man, I chunked them, I can get this kill, and then you get ganked or you extend too far into the tower and you die. But as long as you get out and then their spells are down, almost no champion has more sustain than you will have in lane. So getting a short trade, taking short trade for short trade, and then you go back, get your spells back up. Maybe you get like a Q poke to keep your conquer up, and you can still look to extend that. But trading and having more sustain, trading's better. So you just want to take up more short trades, less overall long trades, and you will just sustain out the lane and get huge advantages that way. You will win by war of attrition. They will not have the resources to stay in lane. Your biggest threat is getting ganked. As long as you don't recklessly take trades, it is next to impossible to die from the jungler. With your W and your E, if they are up, you will never die to a gank. It is almost impossible. Even if your lane positioning is terrible and you're like playing on the side the enemy junglers and you get ganked, you can still probably get away if these two abilities are up. It's crazy. Now, the thing is, the recklessly taking trades, Viego's abilities make him commit really hard. So if sorry, I just lost my train of thought. It makes you commit really hard. And so if you use your W and your R as you're getting ganked, you're probably going to die because you now have no way to get out of that trade. Keeping trainers flash timer is really important. It's extremely important, obviously, on like any champion. It's even more so important on Viego. You have to commit super hard to everything you do, and knowing whether or not your laner has flash is the difference in being like, yes, this is a guaranteed kill, and just coin flipping and you can get outplayed and it can be very bad. And then obviously Viego's a very low CD manaless champion. It's easy to just poke that wave a bunch of times and just get that dopamine rush of getting all that gold and killing the minions, but this is a no-go. Do not do this because he has such high sustain and he has these gap closers in his engage. Being able to set up lane freezes in front of your turret is huge, massive. Like this is where you will get your like solo kill opportunities, and setting up waves is just insane on Viego. So now moving into ability tips with his Q, very straightforward. There's really, I'm just gonna kind of go through these. There's nothing too much about his Q. It's just like a longer range Yasuo Q, Yone Q. You just kind of poke him with the poking stick. You want to make sure you're using the max range to get free CS, and you can also get decent poke onto people too. So while attacking someone marked by his Q, you can also use the Q as a animation cancel of sorts. The mark counts as an extra attack for the conquer stacks, but I already covered this a bit earlier. And then Viego keeps his Q passive mark even when he takes over champions, so make sure to weave in autos. If you take over like a ADC or something like that, or like a Lulu, any like ranged champion, you can hit them with an ability and you keep like the passive damage where it attacks twice when they're marked. Alright, so moving into his W, Viego always dashes the same distance regardless of the charge time. So whether you just tap it or whether you hold it down, his dash always goes the same length. So anytime you're trying to get away, you can just tap it. Viego can start channeling his W and go invisible into his E. So right here, you'll see, so you can kind of use it like this. See how you go invisible here? And you start channeling his W, you go back into the E, they have no clue that you're charging your stun as you walk up into the lane, and you can catch a lot of people, because a lot of people do not know this about Viego, so they'll be expecting like, oh, maybe he just will like Q poke me, you know, out of fog, but you can just like walk up to them and being able to lead off with your stun. If you catch anyone, it's guaranteed sums, you probably still kill them because of your R. If you have it. It's absolutely insane. Make sure to flash combo with other stuns during fights, or use your flash to set up for your teammates' abilities. His W can be hard to get hit just because of your like sitting there. You know it's coming. He's just sitting there charging it up. So it's really good to use like if you have a Gragas E or a Elise Cocoon, things like that. Whatever your teammates' stuns are, it's really good to be like looking at your teammates and then playing off of them to kill people. His E, always use it when all inning or diving for the bonus attack speed. Like if you're for sure committing onto somebody, just throw out the E, gives you attack speed. It's actually like my trigger. I see Viegos who fight and like it's like just throw out your E, man. Just do it. It's there. You're fighting like you're gonna die or you're gonna kill me, so you might as well be using it. But max this after your Q. I don't think I covered that with your Q, but you're going to max your Q first, then your E, then your W. The E's attack speed and cooldown both scale with level, so very good to max second. If you're doing a short trade, like I talked about short trades, it's best to just use your E to create space at the end of the trade. You can use your E to fake roam and create pressure for your side laners. This is huge. I should have red line this. If you'd look and see like your side lane is getting pushed into their tower by a big wave, all you have to do is just slap your E onto a wall and then just chill out in your E. So what they're thinking then is they have to be spam pinging their side lane to the side that you were moving to off, because they just have to respect it, because it could just go extremely bad, but you're just sitting there chilling in lane. It can create so much pressure for your team by doing that, and it just takes so little effort. You're just slapping the E on the wall and you're just chilling out. And another thing that this can do too is they'll be like, oh, he's roaming, my lane's like not in a good spot, I'm gonna try and crash it into the tower, and then that's a way you can look to try and get a good engage onto your laner as well. So his R mechanics, this really isn't tips, but his R is pretty interesting ability, so I want to go through it. So his R buffer is the same as Ezreal's E. So if you get hit by a snare as you're ulting, you will always blink to that location, the same as an Ezreal Arcane Shift would. It works as an execute in a 99% slow for only the lowest HP member hit. Anybody else who also gets hit takes a flat amount of damage and is knocked away. So it's not like this huge explosion damage ulti that where you see like 3 people grouped up and it's like I'm gonna go in. You're really only gonna do a lot of damage to a low HP person and not that much damage to everyone else, but the knockaway can be pretty helpful at times. His R does not refresh when he takes a champion over. He simply gains a temporary charge. So what that means is if you do not use your ult as Viego and kill somebody and take them over, and then you ulti out of the body you're in, your ulti is still up, which is really important to know this, and really important to know this playing against him. Like, just because he ultis out of somebody, he can ulti if you flash away to catch back up again. I already talked about that. So some tips: you should only use your actual ult when you need it to kill people or to escape. This is what I was talking about. Viego, his damage is a little bit lacking in the late game compared to like an ADC. So you really need the like double ult from being in a body, ulting onto an ADC, and then being able to ulti again to either catch up to them or just for the extra damage. And if you have this double ult combo, you are extremely dangerous to backliners. The 1v1 is fine to use your R more aggressively, and this mainly just applies to team fights. Since you have a free charge, you should almost always be using it when you take over champions, as its damage and gap close are extremely valuable. Like, his R is such a strong ability, and you just get a free charge of it anytime you take someone over. So whether you're just grabbing a body or whether you're going to damage people, like, it's just use it before you take something else. Like, you can get to a body quicker maybe, but super valuable ability. So some tips for his passive. Viego is one of the strongest passives in the game, but to play him efficiently, he requires a basic understanding of all champions in the game. His entire playstyle in team fights is dictated towards his passive, but more on that later. When possessing the champion, Viego becomes untargetable, but will still take tower shots. However, you can cancel tower shots that are in flight the same way that a Fizz E would cancel a tower shot that's about to hit him, making it extremely useful for when fighting around enemy towers. So basically, you don't break the tower aggro, but you can cancel the tower shots. Alright, so yeah, then right here, really nothing special, just kill him. But watch, see, this tower shot's gonna kill me. As I die, I take over the graves, cancel the tower shot, and what would have killed me, I live. And the graves is probably mad, because he did not know that, I would assume. When you possess champions, you gain all their items and stats. You cannot use the active items, but you get all passive benefits from the items. That means, shield bow, the bonus healing from Riftmaker, all these things, Viego does gain those, but you cannot use any actives. Before Viego has his ult, he has no way to turn back into himself, meaning he is trapped until the timer wears off. I wish they would just add like a button on his R that would just let him like pre-6 just turn back into himself, because man, sometimes it sucks, and you know, you gotta turn into the body. It's the rules. Like, it's so tempting to just, you kill somebody pre-6, I mean, you just gotta click on it to take them over, and sometimes it's just a mistake pre-6, so it's something to be careful of. Oh, my webcam's blocking this a bit, but no matter what, all spells are refreshed upon initial possession of a champion, and all the spells do not require any mana or energy. The only one this applies to is Akali. If Akali is level 9 and you take her over, you can get like 8 Qs off in the time, like the 10 seconds you have her take it over. It's insane. It's hilarious, actually. It feels like you're playing Earth, but so no matter what, so let's say Blitzcrank walks up to you level 1, hooks you, and your teammate jumps on them, kills the Blitzcrank, you take the Blitzcrank over, this Q is up. Like, you can just hook somebody even though he just used it. So like, all of the abilities that they have leveled up is refreshed when you take them over. This goes for the passives. If it's an Anivia or Zac, you get their like the splitting passive from the Zac with his blobs and the Anivia egg. Very strange. I feel like it shouldn't work like that, but it's how it does. It's really wild, actually. There's so many interesting things. Just another side note, I'm getting sidetracked here, but like with Ornn, if you take over Ornn in the late game, you can upgrade your team's item. It's hilarious. But there's tons of things. I could go into this all day, but moving on. In the mid game, I don't want to go through this too much, but so his mid game is very simple. If you're even or ahead, really strong in the side lane, you're going to be wanting to play the side lane. However, if you are behind, this champion feels really bad to have to fight against other champions in a 1v1 if you're behind. But because it's just how his kit works, and he's so good at like top lane people or like top lane fights, kind of snowballing them, I think like if you're behind and your best opportunity, rather than just trying to like get back in the side lane, will be to just look for a play with your team, and you can look to make a pick, and then that can kind of help you get in the lead. I've won so many games on Viego where I've had no business winning just due to looking to make a play even though I'm behind. Right here, just grouping as the team, looking for a pick, kind of as I talked about. How the team fight is Viego. Every game gives its passive their own strengths and weaknesses, and you need to predetermine how you are wanting to play with those. Now, you don't have to be playing some kind of 5D chess here and be a rocket scientist to figure this out, but a little bit of forethought goes a long way. If you think, okay, their ADC is fed and that is their win condition, how are you going to get onto their ADC? Because if you just simply dive onto the ADC as Viego with your ulti, the ADC will just kill you like it is nothing. So you need to think like, there's an Alistar, maybe I'll be able to get the Alistar first, and then from there I can combo with the ally onto the ADC and then dive with my team. But there's so many options, just thinking about it can really help. So when you do get the opportunities to use your passive, you already have an idea of what to be looking for. Just grabbing whatever champion you can will work. Most of the times it's the only thing you need to do, but in games where you're behind, correctly like assessing a good plan can take you back into the game if you make a good play. Again, there's so many things to discuss with this. Like, I'm not really going to be showing any clips of me like doing fights and things like that, because it's like almost every single game goes different, and so I just kind of want to discuss like the common theme of how you should be playing around the fights, and then you can go back and like look at your own games and see if there's things you could have done different according to these. So since Viego takes over both the stats and items from the champion he possesses, his passive's power scales with the current power level of the champion he takes. This means if you are behind and you take over a fed enemy after you get a kill on them, for the rest of however long that you have that you're possessing them, you are now fed. Like, you can be 0-10 level 3, but if you take over a level 16 fed Irelia, you are now really fed, and that's a really strong thing about him. But the opposite is true. If you take over a weak champion, you are behind, or you are now technically behind while you're in them, so you will want to limit your time spent in. Note, this does not mean taking them on your passive is bad. You get the extra charge on your ulti, you get the invulnerability, you get the heal, it's still really good, but you take them over and then you use their spells immediately and you're off onto your next target. You just don't want to be staying in them. I am by no means trying to say this is bad. Like, if your opponent's behind, don't take them. That is not the case. Like, always take them, but just get out and be moving bang 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 onto your next play. In a large team fight, you need to make sure you are not losing a large portion of your HP when you get your passive for the first time. This is really important. You want to be at high HP when you first possess your first champion. It's one of those things where I think a lot of people who may be struggling playing Viego is through the fact that they just try and dive onto people. They kind of think of him like an assassin, and that's not the case. He really just does not have the damage to just jump into the back line and start killing people. But unless you are making a pick, your vessel will be like the first person you take over, whether it be you cut out the front line or whatever. This is your ticket. This is your golden ticket to winning this team fight, because it's your ability to dive the back line and to still have your ulti available. So whether it be a Leona, or whether it's a Lulu, or whether it's a Twisted Fate, any kind of champion, you're able to just use their abilities, ulti out onto the ADC. The ADC will use whatever escape abilities they have, and then your ulti is still up and you are still full HP to follow. But if you're low HP and you jump in, you're just gonna die to the ADC when you take over the body. Like, this is the most important thing right here to Viego's team fighting, everything. If you get one thing out of this video, it's this: if you are 5v5 team fighting, don't waste all of your HP just to take over a single person. Make sure you have high HP so you can still continue fighting when you take them. Viego's passive is really good at continuing on fighting, but you need to be at an HP level. I just cannot stress on this enough. I think this is the thing I always see. Every single game I see Viego's mess up with, and I think it's just the biggest thing. So review: unless you have a winning matchup, you want to play a safe, consistent lane and to take advantage of Viego's skirmishing strength by playing around your team. If you have a winning matchup, you can win. If you have a losing matchup, he has enough sustain to where you can go even and just play around your jungler. Look for the side lane ganks. It's insanely strong champion. When trading, you don't want to all in from 100 to 0 without a lead. Look for short optimal trades and disengage until your spells come back up. Come up with an idea of how you would want to use your passive in a fight. I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought, but come up with an idea how you'd want to use your passive in a fight. The forethought here goes a long way. When trading, or going back to the second point, remember the short trades are good. You out sustain. Don't really want to take the all ends. All right, so going into this right here, you'll see the Yone like ease into me, and I just use my E. Use the E to get out. You want to use your E to like avoid the trades. So he's using his abilities. So I know right here, his E's down. So this is Yone's key ability. He doesn't have his E up. I should win. All of my damaging abilities up. I don't have my E, but his E is way more important than my E is to me. So I just go in, take the trade, stack the Conqueror, and then I kind of go out, let my cooldowns come back up, and then the Yone just does not respect at all that I have my ulti up, and then I use my ulti to keep the Conqueror going to re-engage on him, and it ends up making for easy kill. All right, so right here, I just want to show this clip. This isn't like me like trying to like flex or anything. Like, look how good I am at Viego. I just want to use this as like a guide to kind of show like what Viego's limits are. You can see like I'm not all that fed here, just 2 1-in-1, and me and this Graves are both about the same HP, and I'm able to kill him fairly easily. For some reason an ADC roams up, and like it just does not feel legal the amount of damage you do. And all I have here is oops, it's Kai Sibes. All I have here during this is plated steel capsa, vamp scepter, and then a single berserker greaves. Like, if you're able to stack the Conqueror, the amount of damage you deal on this champion is crazy. And I just want to kind of show like the limits of this champion and how you actually, if you're feeling like the champion's weak and does no damage, he does maybe a little bit more than you're expecting. And, you know, just go in normal games, int a few times, just run it down, just find the champion's limits before you take it out into ranked. All right, so one last thing to the review that I completely forgot to go over, it wasn't even in the PowerPoint, is think to yourself, like when you are behind in a team fight, your #1 goal then should be to, like, how are you going to get a passive body? If you're like completely useless 2 levels behind, you need to be thinking like, how am I going to get somebody to take over, because once you take over that body for those next 10 seconds, you are ahead. So it does not matter how far behind you are. As long as you have one person on your team who deals a decent amount of damage and is kind of fed, if you work with them, you can win the game. The amount of games I've won on this champion already that I have no business winning is insane. This champ's comeback potential is crazy. It actually, like, it feels like you're cheating sometimes with the things you get away with from being how behind you are on them. That's just one last thing I wanted to go over. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, comment them. I will answer. If you have something else that was working with you on Viego, let me know. Like I said, this is not the end-all be-all guide. I am not some Viego mastermind or anything like that. This is just what I'm working. This guide did take a lot of time. I'm not too good at stuff like this, or I guess I should say I'm just new to it, so it's probably not the most professional of presentation or anything. If you can tell by the video, it's gotten a little bit dark since I've started, but catch me on my streams. I stream a lot. Twitch.tv LOLJSS. Subscribe to the YouTube. I'm wanting to make more content on YouTube. This was kind of like my start to that, quote unquote, and I figured it was a good start for it just because of how much I've been enjoying Viego, and a lot of people who I talk to, they really, it's been mixed opinions from like people that I'm friends with, like asking like, hey, how does Viego feel mid? Like, he feels really good for me. And a lot of people who I've talked to, really surprisingly, have been saying like, no, I think the champion's weak and just does not have damage, and it was shocking. So I figured I can make the guide maybe help out some other people if they are struggling, but hopefully you found you got some good out of this. I helped you a little bit, and if not, tell me I'm dog shit and explain why so I can get better. But yeah, thanks for watching, and see ya.